Poll question, Seton, before we get to Johnny Bench.
Yeah, we got up there right now. Do you agree with Rob Manfred's decision? 61% say yes, they do.
Let's bring in Johnny Bench, the Hall of Famer. Johnny, great to see you again. Let me ask you the question. Do you agree with what the commissioner did yesterday?
I do. I do. I just think I think he's done more work than you can imagine to try to figure this out. I think it had to be agreed upon by the Hall of Fame, though. I think that was a question mark that had to be done. Jane is the person that's basically, wants the sanctification of the Hall of Fame, and that it hopefully all members of the Hall of Fame, although we know there's been question marks about it, whether it be PEDs or whether it be past history or people that have been elected to the Hall of Fame. But for the commissioner, I know personally that I've talked to him. I know there's others that have talked to him. I know that he's trying to get the temperature of what it was. I think the temperature was mixed. I think like the voting is 61%. I think the percentages were one way or the other with some Hall of Famers. Do you take a poll of the Hall of Famers? Do you take a poll of the writers? Do you take a poll of just the Danettes? And I think you're going to wind. Well, I mean, they're fans, and yes, they understand the what has happened with Pete and with the Black Sox scandals. I mean, the one person. I mean, as you know, Ted Williams was a staunch supporter of Shoeless Joe Jackson, and they keep saying, well, there was no evidence against it, and he hit 3-something or 400. So I guess the feel is, all I can say is it is a perfect time for this thing to come out, because right now, as we prepare for the day, I am not in Cincinnati, but they are honoring Pete at the stadium. There'll be 42,000 people coming out, and maybe more now that this announcement has been done. But for the Rose family, I'm extremely happy for them that it's all somewhat behind us.
Why wait until Pete dies?
Well, I think that there was some concern that he wanted to get into the game of baseball, as far as what has been talked about. He wanted to still be a manager or something like that. I think that created some problems. The fact that whether somebody would actually hire him at this point, or what position he would be in. And I think there was still, okay, we still have to have a certain caution here. We got to put up some yellow flags, and in most cases, a lot of red flags, and make sure that none of this happens. I really believe it was a push by so many people. I think the commissioners ruled on it twice. I know Bud Selig ruled on it 2 or 3 times, and the consensus was that he was not going to. He was permanently banned. And so I think they're cutting hairs a little bit on whether, now that he's deceased, now it's okay.
You probably know this better than anybody. How do you think Pete would react today if he were alive?
About damn time. What took him so long? About damn time. No, I think he wanted to be voted on. I think he felt like he never had that opportunity and everything else. And I think that was his one thing. I think he always believed that had he been on the ballot, that he would have been voted into the Hall of Fame. Now, what the Hall of Fame has not done, I think, is make a space for Pete in the Hall. And, we honor different groups of baseball players. We honor catchers, we honor we honor the heroes and what is baseball and legends and everything else. I think there's a perfect spot for the Hall of Fame so many ways. And I think you'll see it in Cincinnati on the board today. I think they'll highlight all the things and the person that he was. 145 pounds. He was not drafted. He had to have a scout, which was an uncle, to give him a tryout. Then he winds up being an all-star at 5 different positions. Then he wins the MVP of the World Series. These are all things that you can honor him with and praise him for. And I think I heard Mike Schmidt talking about the fact that, and the other players on MLB talking about the fact that they wanted to be like Pete. They wanted to play like Pete. They wanted to head first slide. They wanted to do all things. He was a personification of hustle and attitude and love for the game of baseball. And the rules are the rules. But for Pete, I think he should be honored at the Hall of Fame just with video, but you also tell the story of why and why this happened and what the ramifications are.
I think the immediate reaction from a lot of people was Pete's going to get into the Hall of Fame. And I'd caution my audience to say they're not going to vote on this till December of 2027. And there's other guys on that ballot like Steve Garvey and Louis Tiant and, some really good players. Shoeless Joe Jackson's going to be on there as well. So it's not a foregone conclusion Pete gets in or even gets on the ballot. But, it's going to be a process here. And people should realize that.
I think we can assume that his name will be there. I think there's going to be the need for that to happen. But I think there's guys, they've been on, some of these guys have been on the ballot for 20 years. I mean, they keep thinking, or they'll think. And, famous words of Frank Robinson and Bob Feller, and this isn't for the good, this is for the great. And so, and that is exactly the way it was framed. And so here we are at this point saying, okay, we know Pete Rose is great. Good gosh, he's 4,256 hits, and, all the teams that he helped in all the World Series, we know it's there. But I think that would be the ultimate honor. But again, okay, we're going to take 12 or 16 guys. We're going to take 4 owners. We're going to take 4 media, and we're going to take 8 players. And we're going to have to get 12 votes. And, Marvin Miller didn't make it in forever because the owners were never going to vote for him because they felt like during the drug situation, he could have controlled that better. And yet he had to allow players to get off of the drugs before they could test them. And that's why it took long that. And you could also say that Sosa and the PEDs and McGuire saved the game of baseball. All of these things are suppositions. All these things are not proven, but all these things are true. And so now you got to get 12 guys to go to 16 guys to go into a room, and you got to have 12 yeses.
Talking to Johnny Bench, the Hall of Famer. Do you think Pete bet as a baseball player on baseball?
I don't have that knowledge. For me to say yes, I think that would be a little. I can't say for sure because I don't have any evidence of that.
Yeah, I just maintain, and once again, Pete and I shared a bookie growing up when Pete Rose. I went through a bookie that he used, so I never knew anything about Pete betting as a player. But I don't think you start betting as a manager. And let's be fair to the situation here, because everybody said, well, he bet as a manager and he bet on his team to win. I think there's more information there that hasn't.
Did he bet on them every game to win?
He told me a couple of years ago, first time he ever admitted that he bet on the Reds to win. Now, I was under the impression he was betting on them to win every night.
All right. Well, so Dan, you're standing beside him, and you're listening to him calling his bookie, and he says, "I want the Reds, the Indians, and the Braves." You'd stand by him the next night. He wants the Reds, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. And the next night he says, "I want the Pirates, the Cubs, and the Yankees." You don't like the Reds tonight?
Okay.
Dan's going to be calling the bookie.
But Johnny, I was told by somebody who would know there were certain pitchers that Pete didn't want to bet on to win games for the Reds.
Okay. And so you had a lot of conversations. Did you have a private line?
I had too many conversations. But I would know during hockey season or football season who Pete was betting on through my bookie, who took, some of the off bets from the main bookie who lived in Indian Hills, and that Pete went through. So I was kind of privy to this. I get to ESPN. I walk in. First month I'm there, the Pete Rose scandal breaks. I call my former bookie. I'm like, I need some information here. And my bookie's like, no names. I said, no, just give me the information. And he did.
Well, it's like gambling becomes yours. It's like you. This is a story. I'll just use you as the example. You bet on every baseball game, you bet on every football game, and you bet on every basketball game, and you lose every bet. So you call your bookie in Indian Hill and say, I'm quitting. I am done with betting. I am not going to bet anymore. But then he'll say, well, what about hockey? It's just coming up. And you'll say, what do I know about hockey?
Well, Pete had that satellite dish outside his house, so he would dial up all of these. He'd be watching Vancouver Canucks and betting hockey.
Oh, I can still remember. Well, yeah, I mean, you got a tip. Somebody gave you a good tip.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 73 or 4, we're up at we're having an event with Bob Hope, and my buddy who is likes to bet, and he's watching the baskets, and the game's coming on. He's watching football, and the game's come on. He says, "Do you think I could be all right with Mr. Hope if I watched the game?" I said, "Well, I'm not turning this on my TV. I mean, it's his suite here. You're going to have to do that." And he said, "Mr. Hope, do you like football?" And of course, he had his book open to whatever his bets were. So Bob said, "Oh yeah, turn it on. Let's see what this. I got 4 points on this guy." So I think everybody's probably had a bet at one time or the other.
Have you?
I have. Somebody said if you'll bet on every home favorite, you'll win. So I tried it for about 6 games. I couldn't, if I said, no, it's not my deal. I'm not lucky at gambling, and I love my money more.
Would you rather have Otani or Judge on your team right now?
I would say Otani, just because of the fact that I could get him to pitch it one time or the other. That would be the backup thing. I mean, right now, Judge is, what he is. I mean, he's awesome. I mean, I just love his approach. His love is, he's got such reach. He's got such patience. He's the kind of guy that doesn't have to hit the ball out of the ballpark because everybody wants him to hit a ball out of the ballpark. He's going the other way. They're pitching him so many different ways. He's got such a great discipline up there. But Otani, you watch him flail away. You don't see Aaron Judge do that. You just don't see that flailing away and missing and everything else. But yet, for stolen bases, which Judge can do, the only caveat for me would be the fact that I could put Otani in the pitch.
Is there a sound of a home run that still resonates with you, whether you hit it or you were behind the plate and somebody hit it?
Well, there's two. Now that you mentioned that, there was 2 come to mind. One was in the All-Star game, and we were in Griffith Stadium in D.C., and Steve Carlton was pitching, and Frank Howard, big Frank Howard, 6'8", about 270. He said, I'm just so big and strong. If I just made contact, hell, I'd probably hit 100 home runs. And he came to the plate, and Steve threw him a fastball. It went right past Steve's head and went over the center field fence and bounced off the concrete. And he crossed home plate. Said, see what I mean? I just made contact. That's all I did. But the other one, of course, was the home run I hit against the Pirates in 72 to tie the game of the night. And I don't know if it's the sound or it's the echo, because I would walk in Riverfront Stadium, and Al Michaels just doing a documentary thing, and I was repeating the fact that the 1 and 2 to bench, change hit in the air to deep right field. Back goes Clemente to the wall. She's gone. And I would hear that every time. I don't know why I stepped in the stadium.
Was that off Dave Justy?
Yeah. I mean, I remember Ron Santo coming in playing golf. He walked in. What's the score? 2-1 the Pirates, or 3-2 of the Pirates. And he said, "This game's over," when they said Justy was in. Because you couldn't hit him with a boat oar. I mean, he was nasty. And it just happened to be for me.
But when Reggie Jackson hit the light tower in Tiger Stadium at the All-Star game, was that a sound? Like that you remember? I mean, that's one.
Oh, God, do I remember? I'm sitting here. I had the best view of all. I mean,
you called the pitch.
I knew the velo and the launch angle. I mean, I was the one that had all of this stuff down, And I always tell Reggie, because Reggie likes the swagger part. I said, what you don't understand is, Reggie, my home run went farther than yours did. I hit it up in right center field up in center field, right center field, going out and of course we have our things with it and everything else. But Reggie was the beauty. But golly, oh my gosh! I mean, we just stood there, and looked at it like, where in the hell is this going to go? You couldn't imagine it would hit those light standards up there. I mean, it's one of a kind, and it was a special moment because, I mean, think about that All-Star game. How many 30 some guys from the Hall of Fame were in that game?
Unbelievable.
How you doing? What's the green for? I mean, you missed it by about 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
That's Adam Sandler sent this to me. It's
play?
For Happy Gilmore.
What position? Oh, he's a Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
I've seen your game. I played with you, actually.
Yeah.
It's close.
To Happy Gilmore?
Are you happy? That's all I'm saying.
Great to talk to you, man.
Always.
Thank you.
Always.
Thanks.
That's to the Danettes.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
That's Johnny Bench, greatest catcher ever. We'll take a break here. We'll get to more phone calls back after this Dan Patrick Show.